right, I think there we go. We are broadcasting. We're all together. This is great. So welcome everyone. We have a bunch of new people this month. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
What do you do? Who are you and what do you do? Starting here.
Actually, I came in the United States 1 month ago.
Okay. Welcome.
I won a green card in the lottery.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Was that sponsored through work?
No,
just
it's just a lottery. Was
nice.
University is a lottery. So this program was founded by my favorite American president, John F. Kennedy. Yeah. So
Many high schools.
If he wasn't your
junior
favorite
highs.
before, he would be now.
Yeah. Named after JFK.
Yeah. So I'm just looking for a job for now, and why I'm here, I'm just curious about Mac OS, because actually for me it's very new, because uh, as I think most of people, I grew up with Windows, Microsoft Windows, and the last 5 years I worked with Linux,
Okay.
mostly in Debian. So I don't know, I nothing know about the Mac, so that's why I'm here.
Okay, well, welcome. This should be a good resource for you. And I think if you have a little experience with some sort of Unix-based OS like Linux, it should make that conversion a little easier on the command line. There are definitely differences between Linux and Mac OS, but just your basic sort of getting around, poking at things should be pretty similar. Yeah, I don't know. I know the statistics are that Apple keeps selling more and more Macs, but it seems like the real action, at least for work, is iOS, right? I mean, I'm sort of on the wrong side of that equation myself. I'm more of a Mac person. I'm not an iPhone or iPad person, but that seems to be where a lot of the action is, at least in the corporate world. A lot of the corporate world still big, Windows strongholds, I think. But yeah, anyway, welcome. Good luck with that, sir. Next. Hi.
Hi. I'm on vacation now. I'm actually a software developer, not system admin.
Okay.
But we're developing MDM server, MDM tools.
Okay.
So because of that, I'm looking for Mac system admins.
So this is with an established company already, or you're just coming up with this whole thing that's new and no one knows about it yet?
Yeah, established company, and we are MDM provider.
Okay. Can you say who it is, or this is a?
The Valencia's company in Istanbul, Turkey-based.
So,
company.
but you already provide MDM for something else, and you're bringing Mac and iOS into the fold, or it's
only iOS. Now we are implemented only for iOS, not Mac.
Okay.
And I'm looking for that.
Okay. Very cool. Well,
Cool. I'm Scott McQueen. I've been working as a Mac sysadmin in education for probably 7 years now, from the university level all the way down to private K through 8s, and always managed a large number of clients as well as I could.
So where are you now then?
I'm at a private school in Pasadena, California called Chandler School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a full one-to-one laptop program, which takes up most of my time, and then I have a few virtual hosts running a variety of different OSs, and primarily focused on managing the Macs that we have, well, technically that our students have. Pretty big iOS deployment, about 200 clients, and then for the size of the school, which only has like 500 students, there's quite a few clients, almost 1,000. So
what brings you to New York this week?
Oh,
to be
vacation.
Here with us in person? Oh, okay.
Vacation.
Oh.
Lucky, just
Good timing.
got lucky. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
I'd gone to Mac Tech for the last 3 or so years.
Excellent. So speaking of which, especially in education, are you coming back to this coast next month? or in 2 months for the Penn State? Penn State?
I would love to, especially if I could get my work to pay for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course.
But yeah, it would be contingent on that, but I'd love to.
Yeah.
I always catch the feeds afterward, and that it's a great resource.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year though they didn't get to record all of them.
Right.
They didn't?
Yeah.
Not all of them. I mean, Apple, for example.
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
let you
Apple never
record.
allows
Right,
you
there's the
to-
Apple ones, but I know that from the get-go. There were like maybe one or two that they had trouble recording, I guess.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's always nice to just go because, you know, the
Yeah,
a lot of
socializing
it.
and all that.
Yeah, a lot of it, what you learn is, you know, in the little 15-minute breaks in between
Yeah.
sessions
Right.
and sitting with people
That
at
goes
lunch.
to any
and-
conference.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's the most important aspect of a conference is the social networking, the meeting other people.
Right.
The sessions, they have to be there as a foundation and maybe get people talking in the first place, but it's always about meeting people
Mhm.
in smaller groups and so what are you working on? What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, sort of just like this in a lot of ways. So yeah, since last month, I guess there's a bunch of stuff that's happened. You know, you're probably the most obvious person here to start talking about the watch. You were so excited for it, and I see you have one.
I do.
So what's your impressions?
My impressions is it is in a lot of ways what I expected, and in a few ways it isn't. The ways in which you expect, if you've read all the reviews, minus maybe some from terrible reviewers who seem to just want the clickbait title of the Apple Watch is terrible.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think it's a great device. It's the kind of thing that you interact with, you know, a few times an hour for 10 or 15 seconds or 5 seconds or 2 seconds to say, hey, it's 82 degrees outside. I'm glad I know that.
So which model is that? Which model of the watch?
This is the stainless steel with the link bracelet.
So
Since I'm
okay.
off camera here.
Okay.
And you know, it's well designed. I actually ordered it with the black sport band or whatever initially. I actually ordered this one first, and then when I saw they weren't shipping until May 13th, I ordered the same model with the black sport band and then the link bracelet separately, which is what this is, so that I could have it a little bit sooner.
So it seems like some models only come with certain bands.
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
few
so-
you can't match for sure. I mean, the sport one, for example, the space gray, it's what Alistair's wearing over there, only comes with that band. The black.
But the bands
sport
are
band.
totally interchangeable.
Yeah.
Like that would be stupid if they weren't interchangeable.
Some of them are inadvisable to exchange just
Sure.
because they would look funny, but you could totally put a pink sport band on that
Yeah.
one and be happy with it.
Has anyone set up an exchange for bands yet? Like, oh, my watch came with this.
There was a
one.
temporary
I can
one.
only
That
buy
sounds-
this.
That sounds ooky.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
There
eBay. What's the difference? People
Uh,
eBay these bands
I-
or something. I don't know.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. If I guess if you sterilize it or whatever, but good luck doing that with the leather one.
Yeah. So back to the tech. I guess I have. I don't. Maybe I don't have that many questions because it's a product that still doesn't necessarily interest me that much. But like you were an enthusiast
Mhm.
for this. So are you a lefty?
I am left-handed, so this is the very first watch I've ever owned where I actually can have the crown facing the way
Flip
it's
it.
meant to.
Well,
Meant
you
to
know,
face.
I've seen righties say that you should flip the orientation because it's easier to reach over and work the crown with your thumb
Yes, yeah.
rather than
With your pointer finger?
trying to, because it's harder to get
Huh.
underneath it to rotate it.
See, if you're rotating it like this, you're doing it wrong. Once you've used it for a while, seriously,
You're holding it wrong.
if you're like holding on,
Apple through and
You need
through.
to hold it.
if you're holding on to this round thing, I'm not saying that because Apple says
No,
you
I
should,
know, I know.
but because this whole thing, these little grooves were precision cut into this thing so that you could basically turn your finger into a scroll bar
Huh.
by doing this. You don't
Or
have
with
to.
your thumb then.
With your thumb, absolutely. But you never want to grab it and turn it because you can't get as long of a continuous motion.
Huh.
It's not as smooth, and also I think it's more confusing. This way, if I want to bring the content up, I just move my thumb up, just like I would on an iPhone or an iPad.
And so that's the 42.
This is the 42, yeah. For my size, generally the 38 would look silly. I find one of the things that I use more on it than I expected to is Siri. Like, I never use Hey Siri as a command, even when plugged in on my iPhone. Just I never find myself doing that. I'd use the button one from time to time, but here to just raise your wrist, say, Hey Siri, set a reminder to do whatever at 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't have to stop walking where I'm walking, pull my phone out.
Yeah.
Do the whole thing, and it deals. I've done that like on 42nd Street in New York with all the traffic nearby, and it picks it up perfectly.
I will definitely say, so I go back and forth between an Android and an iPhone. I lean more on the Android because I like it much better, but I will say, I don't know when Siri got better, but Siri is seriously fast. Like on the phone, it's super fast. I think it's faster than Google Now or whatever, the Google Voice thing.
As long as you're in the sphere of things that she can do.
Sure, well, you know what? I'm maybe not the best test case because I probably use all the commands they expect you to use.
Right.
Siri, text so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah. But it's super fast, and the recognition is great.
I think iOS 8 was a pretty big step up in Siri.
Wow. So Siri's great. So on the watch, I'm just assuming it's just passing it off to the phone and letting the phone do all the work.
Yeah, for the most part. I don't know whether. I guess the phone must be doing all of the voice to text work, regardless of whether the function that it's performing is right on the watch. Like, for example, if you say, "Hey Siri, set a timer for 15 minutes," right? It's going to go into the timer app on the watch. If you look at the clock app on your phone,
it's not
the timer won't be ticking.
Well,
there.
so I guess this is sort of like the iPhone was version 1. There were some native apps that Apple made, and there's everything else that developers can make. But in fact, version 1 of the iPhone, developers couldn't do anything. But when the SDK did come out, and still now in iOS 8, there are things that Apple can do that you as a developer can't do. So yes, there will be certain apps that run right on your watch, and those are sort of first-class citizens.
Right, and those first-class citizens are going to be opened up to the dev community later this year, whatever that means, according to Apple. So I think that will be a huge watershed moment in terms of how much it feels like you actually want to go into. Like going to this app picker screen and then tapping on an app is a thing you wind up doing surprisingly infrequently. If it doesn't have a glance, there's only a couple of apps worth opening, like the Apple's own fitness app, or the shutter release app for controlling the phone. That's, by the way, the biggest wow factor thing if you want to show off the cool thing your Apple Watch can do to some random person who's interested.
Right.
I find that one always gets the wow response because they're looking at a live view of
the camera,
what your phone is pointed at, and it's turned the phone on automatically and all that.
Yeah, that's nice.
I mean, it's a big postage stamp for them to look at.
So, is there any interaction between a phone and your Mac? Not at all, right?
Between the watch and your Mac?
I mean, yes, I'm sorry. The watch and instead of the watch and your phone, is there any interaction? Can you do anything with your watch that says, "Hey, do this with my Mac"? Now that if I take my phone and I set it out of Wi-Fi Bluetooth range, if I turn it off, I'm limited to what the watch can do. I think there's no Bluetooth pairing of the watch to the Mac. But you do sort of get all of the iCloud functionality. So if you say, "Hey Siri, remind me at 3 o'clock to do blah blah blah," and you're signed into iCloud, that reminder will pop up on your Mac. But that's not
the Siri stuff that doesn't work is things like, one of the cool things I used to like doing with Siri was to say, "Hey Siri, tell me what planes are overhead." Sometimes I'd be on the roof of my apartment building barbecuing or something. You look up, there's all these planes around. You want to say, and Wolfram Alpha will essentially feed information to Siri and show all of it to you. But since it essentially needs Safari to do that, the watch can't.
Wolfram's full of fun little nuggets all over the place when it comes to Siri, and like you can bring up the Pokédex. You can say, "I want to talk. Tell me about Charizard, Siri," and suddenly, next thing you know, so that it almost seems like cheating to say that that's like Siri functionality because it's like that's Wolfram being cool.
You could say the same thing about Google, right? You do these, type in something to Google, and it'll get answers from Wolfram or these different places.
Right, or
But you're
from
saying-
Major League Baseball for like sports
Right.
scores.
About
or-
it talking to the computer, it doesn't even talk to iPads, you know? And,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
the only
That's
optimization that a lot of things have out of the box is this becomes a little itty-bitty palette for certain
Yeah.
apps like drawing and such like that. Or you can, with PowerPoint, you can make it a remote as well, but it's
Yeah.
only a PowerPoint to the iPhone app,
Yes,
period.
right.
That's it. Like, that's the only thing that splits off into a extra surface for it.
I'm old.
It's-
My answer
but
is
it's-
I'm
it's
old,
just-
and none of this is.
These
compelling
are
to me.
primordial
Yeah,
ooze
I get
where
it,
it's
I
only
get it.
talking to one very specific device.
So, in the sysadmin kind of realm, which you two might be able to answer, and you might be able to answer, any management of the watch, or does
It's
the
just
watch
managing
just
the iPhone.
respect what the iPhone has set? So, if I push out,
With exceptions. Alistair, I can see he's
okay,
already
so
found
there
a
you
couple
go.
of
This
them.
is what I want to hear about.
So it's unfortunate my boss is not here, but we get
You'll be his
policy
proxy.
if you set up an exchange. If you're getting ActiveSync policies put on you, you have to abide by those on the watch as well. The watch has a passcode. You want to use a passcode on it if you're going to use Apple Pay. In fact, you can't get Apple Pay without having a passcode on it. You take it off your skin, it locks.
Yeah.
So that passcode is restricted because you do not have a keyboard on here. You have a number pad. Therefore, you're limited to digits.
So it
And only 4 of them.
drops the.
An exchange for our company, he needed to remove his exchange account,
Yeah.
then put on the passcode, then put on the exchange account on the phone, and he didn't even care about checking mail from that account on there, but he needed it on the phone. So there was this weird
Yeah,
like
that's a
seesaw
problem,
between the
to be
two
honest.
process.
That's a problem because
It's a problem
The-
for enterprises that have exchange accounts with an ActiveSync enforcement
Well,
for that one setup process.
in all honesty, it's a problem for everyone because that's the brilliance of Touch ID. I can have this crazy long password
Yep.
and I almost never need to actually type it. A 4-digit PIN is not security.
A 8-digit, a 16, it's
Well,
all digits,
yeah.
but still,
But a
you
4-digit
can as
PIN
well.
can be brute force.
You can unlock
Painless.
the device, the watch, with Touch ID on the phone, though. So that's like the convenience of you set a ridiculous PIN
Right.
code that at least you can remember on here. You can still not have to enter that every time you
I
get
thought you were
the watch
saying.
back on.
I thought you were saying that the watch was limited to a 4-digit PIN.
No, it's limited to a number pad input.
Okay, but
On
it
the
can be
device.
longer than 4 digits.
It can,
That's a little bit better.
but when you're bootstrapping, there's that little like weird
Yes.
seesaw he had to do, which is like Apple's going to be concerned about ActiveSync restrictions. I don't freaking think so.
No, they don't
They
care.
allowed you to get around that during the setup process,
But-
so you could use it.
I think bigger.
That's the only thing that, like, anything management related, that was the only restriction on phone equals problem in bootstrapping device.
Sure, but
That
in
was using it
general,
around.
if you push profiles down to the phone, the watch respects those profiles.
And they did add some respecting of, I don't remember, the Enterprise iOS had a post of, like, there was 3 things that they thought might be valuable to add in the way of management regarding the new capabilities in 8.3
Well, one of my biggest
and the watch.
gripes are notifications.
Hmm.
Like, I don't understand rich notifications on your lock screen. Like, has everyone forgotten what a lock screen is for? The whole point
Well,
of a lock screen, right, is
to
so people
not
don't-
be
right.
You can't
leaking
see
things.
your.
I thought that was a little strange.
Right. I mean, to me,
But
it's
there
convenient
is some
for a lot of
granularity
people.
in there of not having full text. You can just say that it's an
You know,
email.
That's one
period.
thing that I lean back on my Android for. Whereas I can get,
It's going to be, yeah.
the
Way richer.
notifications are so much better on Android
Absolutely.
in terms of I can have it just pop up the mail icon, no information. So it's like, that's a notification to me. Okay, I know I got mail. I can go see what that is. Whereas iOS, it seems like they have a central notification system, and that's where you should be able to clamp down on all this stuff. But it isn't. Each app does its own crazy thing that it determines, or it feels like, oh, these are the parts of the notification you might want to see or might not want to see.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't understand why that isn't a centralized setting
Right.
to say, yeah, show me
of all
the app
things,
icon, but don't give me any information about it.
it's
But
almost-
that might be coming though, because they basically put that functionality into the watch OS. So you can have a notification pop up, and by default, when you raise your wrist, it'll show you who it's from and what type of notification is. So from so-and-so, and it's an iMessage. But it'll wait 2 seconds, I believe it is, to show you the actual message. You can change that so that it never shows you the actual message until you like tap on it or whatever, so that you can get some more granularity to.
So then let me ask.
But this proximity, I'm not worried about.
Right,
it's about the text leaking as well.
Right, but let me
Right.
ask then. So you take the watch off,
Mhm.
put it on the desk. Do notifications still show up? You get a notification. Does it show up?
Everything about this is locked. Like,
Okay.
the fact that I have activity on here is locked. It only wants to show what day it is, and then anytime
So
you
a
want
new
to touch it,
notification
But a
wouldn't
new
even light the
notification
screen.
doesn't light that.
I have not tried it.
Okay, I'm just
tempted
curious.
to enter something now. See whether or not I have your
But-
cell phone number. I don't know.
But okay, so management of the watch is basically push out a policy because it has to be paired to an iPhone very specifically.
Mhm.
You push out your policy via your MDM to the phone. The watch basically inherits that. All right, well that's good to know. That was smart thinking, I guess. I mean, I guess
pull your watch off, and I'll send you. Oh no, you're testing it yourself, aren't you? I was gonna say I'll send you an email.
were there
It's locked now.
It's locked.
All right, away it goes.
it's off his wrist.
See whether the thing buzzes or.
Were there any while we're waiting for that to come through the ether?
Realizing I have to send it from.
Were there
my
any
account.
surprises with the watch? Things that I never heard Apple mention that, but that's really cool. Or it does this thing. And
Not to unlock, I can unlock the Mac from the watch. That makes me want to continue to use not to unlock. Because Mac ID I also have, which is kind of dumb of me knowing its security limitations. But Mac ID just works so gosh darn well. And now Knock to Unlock has
ID?
that.
I don't think it's.
So Mac ID is the fact that it was the first one with Touch ID, or like the first prominent one with Touch ID base.
And it unlocks.
And it can do multiple, and it can control extra like pops and whistles. Also, it'll. So because this is unlocked, I don't think I got it. It knew. So sometimes I'm on here and I kind of want to interact with it on the watch, and therefore I can't because this is unlocked, and therefore I get notification on the watch.
Okay.
So we're not sure that.
So if you have the
phone unlocked, it doesn't need to also buzz you on your wrist.
That's smart.
So go ahead and leave your phone
like
locked
that.
for this one. I'll do it again. If I'm genuinely curious.
But I've therefore been like totally cutthroat about no notifications now on the iPhone, which makes my life a little quieter because I don't want my wrist buzzing all the time.
Right.
I want the vibration to be more pronounced somehow.
Really?
Because subways. Just
even with prominent
buzz that
haptics?
people have felt recently.
But you wouldn't get. I mean, okay, not all subway stations, but most underground in Manhattan, you wouldn't get a signal. So how would you get?
Oh, you get a signal a lot of the subways.
I get a signal
now.
in a
It
lot of
depends
places.
on the line, but there's still lines.
But also, your phone could be setting off a reminder at a specific time. For you don't have a signal, but it's a time-based reminder or something.
So you're saying time-based reminders wouldn't go through on the watch?
I'm saying they would, and they should, even without a signal. That's what the case. That's the use case for that.
But like the speaker being this close means that the volume is okay. That I don't mind. Like I'm so ruthless as well about always silencing.
Yeah.
It's always in silent, always, unless the wife is going to call me. But therefore, I don't mind like the doorbell, the bellhop ding of getting a notification on this. Like I don't mind because I've been so ruthless about it. Yeah, that it's nice and actually subtle. So it's weird how I'm interacting with how I would do like portable devices.
Yeah.
It's changing how I think about it because I have this weird little like read-only thing. that I can dismiss from.
I think, kind of like the iPhone, I'll probably be more interested in version 2 and seeing what comes out of this. Version 1 is kind of interesting, but I think most wearables right now are just sort of in this experimental.
Oh yeah,
the Apple Watch feels a lot less experimental though than any of the others
It's beautifully
I've
made
seen.
and designed. To me, like the utility isn't.
But I was saying, like, even the iPad as a platform, we don't have great apps for it. We don't have a great ecosystem. We don't have a great story of workflow for many situations. And IBM's going to learn. I mean, they're not like Microsoft where they can just continue to pour money down a hole. Like, they're going to learn that unless you have a really great story to tell with these applications, it's not going to catch on. And even then, they're smartly focusing on good experiences.
I wonder.
The watch is a very different experience, and it can be fine if it doesn't get much more complicated than this, as long as its integrations get better.
Well, also we'll see.
But the iPad is just still very raw for me.
There were a lot of developers, though. That
depends on the app.
There were a lot of developers that complained about not having a watch before it shipped, and they're like, "Oh, we developed these apps using the simulator, and now it looks like crap on the watch. I had to redesign it."
Yep.
Right. So I think possibly now that people actually have hardware,
it's going to improve.
We'll see. The development will improve, and we'll start seeing newish things like
in the next month or two.
Yeah, we should start seeing that. But
especially once they can run native on the device, that I hope comes sooner rather than later. So I got to say, the battery life was sort of the main reason that wasn't released immediately, according to Apple. And
so they say.
I don't know. The experience is just a weird thing to try to do something. Oh, I'm getting a notification from the email. Oh no, I'm getting a notification from an alarm.
Did it give you information though? How much information was on the screen?
It was the fact that your alarm for 4:55 went off.
But that's it. No information.
Didn't say what it was or anything like that.
Was there a title
I have a label
to the
on
alarm?
it. Yeah, and
Wake
there's
up.
no. It's like I do it to remind myself to set the activity. So I'm gonna bike home or walk down the hill because I burn calories walking down the hill.
Yeah.
I don't want to interact with podcasts on here. I don't care about choosing a podcast on here. This is smaller than most people's remote controls from 10 years ago. It's smaller than most people's remote controls now. Like, this is a fine, I'm interacting with customization and, manipulating an application.
Yeah.
This, just give me what I need.
Right, give me the immediate control.
Glance. I don't want every app because most apps kind of suck right now.
Right.
But it's also like, I never find myself saying, oh, wow, I wish I could interact with more media on this postage stamp.
Yes. Although there's supposedly a very good, what is it called? Overcast, I think it is. It's a very good podcast app. And I have to say...
But podcasts are an hour.
Yeah.
How often am I interacting with changing or
manipulating
the podcast?
I'm go forward 15 seconds all the time whenever they start talking about Squarespace or whatever they're...
Right, but or I have the Bluetooth...
Or you did the triple tap.
But
you just hold it for a little bit.
Can you...
Yeah, you can use
hold
the 30
it, you go into
because
Siri,
you're manipulating
no,
that app.
If you triple tap and then hold it, it'll just it'll reel.
See, I'd rather do this and then tap there a couple of times because I got to do it 6 times to get past all the ads.
I'm just saying you don't necessarily need the Overcast app to do that.
Oh yeah, no.
You can use the built-in plans.
Exactly.
And therefore there's enough in the built-in functionality. Like, it might be a little bit of me holding it wrong, but I like limited apps. I like limited. I'm not focusing on my experience.
Yeah.
You'll feel
this isn't ergonomic.
Maybe a little different when you've got, if you ever have the behemoth phone though. Yeah. Because this thing, if I'm, they should start making these out of lead. But it's one of the few materials they haven't exhausted yet. But as far as like interacting with a quick interaction to say, like as much as the double tap on the home button for reachability to bring down the top half of the thing and go through my thing. When I'm walking, I've got a bag around me and the thing is in my pocket and I got headphones, coming through the strap on my messenger bag. I would so much rather pick my next song or whatever than reach into my pocket for this guy.
It may arrive at some point in the future that type of workflow makes sense and is well executed.
Yeah, and I think that really 10%, if you look at if you look at iOS 1.0, right, you could kind of do something similar to this to what developers can currently do, because you could basically take little web snippets of somebody's website, maybe that was optimized for mobile, and save it as though it were a little app on the screen. This feels like one small step further than that.
Well, you're getting a snippet of an iPhone app, basically.
Exactly. Exactly. And once you can go beyond glances, which I think will stay very relevant for a long time, but go beyond the actual app's limited functionality to native on the watch, where it can pull the data from some of the watch's functionality directly.
I don't know when it's going to be able to get to that point.
I don't know.
Apple has said this year.
From a CPU perspective.
The watch, from what I
depends on what you want to do.
From what I understood from pundits and whatever that, whatever,
however
that much that is worth. But this made more sense to me. Is that Apple intended to put much more sensors inside the watch and make it kind of an information receiver for your phone as much as a way of displaying information.
And one of them is even in the watch already, just inactive. One of the teardowns revealed that, what was it, like a pulse oximeter, I think? You ever see that thing, you go into a hospital, somebody's got that little thing on their finger, shows you how much O2 saturation their blood has, 100% being normal. If that starts dropping below about 95, it means your circulation is not doing what it should be doing. Your hemoglobin is not binding appropriately, or whatever it is. So,
exactly.
You've essentially got.
I work at a hospital. I have no idea what you're talking about.
You essentially wind up with that, with some of those sensors I think were in the watch, and they just said, well, this is just not working well enough for us to flip this on yet. I don't know whether that gets flipped on with a later OS update, or whether they wait for version 2.0 where those sensors get better before they start enabling.
Passive intake versus manipulation on this thing, so really small sandbox.
Do the UI, do the interactions, the physical interfaces get confusing at all? Because I went to the Apple Store, I played with it a little bit, and then I didn't know whether I was supposed to go for the crown. I didn't know whether I was supposed to do a force touch.
You'll shake that off in a day or two.
It seems like there's a lot to get used to.
Yeah,
it seemed like there were 4 different ways to interact with it, whereas on the phone you're really looking at 2 plus a lock button.
It certainly is different. It's like
until they add force touch to the success anyway.
Oh that's probably
the iPod with the click wheel was a different way of interaction, but man, there was very few elements to the interface ever, and you use the heck out of that click wheel. I'm not using the digital crown for much of anything except when forced to, because it's better so I can see the gosh darn screen. I'm not like, wow, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome.
I'm going to read my RSS feed every morning.
Well,
no. Perfect.
The New York Times app, though, to quick send you a headline 6 or 7 times a day, that quick little 1 second glance or whatever.
6 or 7 times. The New York Times is the worst. Breaking news. The end subway arrives. All right, it's not breaking news, New York Times.
Well, it is
the Today is actually better at that. They only will send you maybe 3 or 4 things a week.
But I mean, I get your point. It's just those quick little.
And you use the crown for scrolling. The tapping of this thing to bring up your frequent friends list, I don't know, maybe I just don't
have any friends.
Maybe I just don't want to talk to my friends. I don't know what it is.
I want to text my wife all the time on this. And I therefore customize the quick reply type stuff that you can do on here. It's nice that you can get into the interface and do it, but also I read the entire manual. So it's discoverable for me to want to do that.
I read the whole manual before they started shipping these things, like the day that they posted that.
Was an iBook?
I should download the iBook, which I haven't yet, but yeah, I feel like if you read the manual or at least a few good reviews.
The thing is, that's so antithetical to Apple a little bit, especially with their mobile devices. It's just to read the manual. For most people,
you need a little.
There's not a lot of things you can do with this.
Right.
So you want to have it be discoverable so that people see the value in it.
Yeah.
Yet I was just like, I don't care. I'm an early adopter. I'm gonna go a whole hog.
Right. Yeah, and that's.
I feel like we're boring the heck out of our audience, though. Who either doesn't have the watch.
I was just gonna. Well, I am curious, and
I
guess I got the answer that I'm looking for about management, and it's kind of nice that it's not an additional burden to management. It's like, just keep managing the phone, and if someone pairs a watch with it, no big deal to you as an administrator. I think that's really good to hear. The other thing I wanted to talk about were since we got together last time, these new MacBooks that got released.
Yeah, I
This
haven't
is
actually
something-
seen one of those in the
This
wild
is
yet.
something that I have some experience with now, and it's gorgeous. It's light. It's thin. Speaking of that, the Taptic engine, on this and in the Retina 13-inch MacBook, they have the Taptic engine underneath the trackpad, and it's magic. Some of the non-Mac people here were like, "Oh, you're making such a big deal over that." I'm like, "No, it's amazing. Feel this. Like, it's not actually moving, but it feels like
Plus,
it's
you
clicking."
can set how hard you have to press for it to activate.
That's
which is
something
great.
that Apple does so well. So I love that in the new trackpads, and I'm presuming we're going to see a refresh of the 15s at some point during this year that will probably maybe get a little thinner, and we'll have the new trackpad. And
the keyboard feels amazingly
I do
great.
like the keyboard. I
do not. I feel like it's a lunch tray.
Well, it is funny because it does take a little getting used to. I don't mind the keyboard, but when I come back to this feels like Cherry MX switches. Right. It feels like a really long throw and a
Like
really
coming back
sort
to
of
the old
luxury keyboard or something. But all that said, I think it's an amazingly beautiful piece of crap.
You were negative on it from the get-go, though, because of the ports.
Well, you know what?
You just knew it would be contentious.
I kind of flipped my view on that. The port, it bugs me a little bit, but you can get around that.
Yeah.
Performance-wise, it's awful.
Really?
It's a dog.
For everything, or just for?
Yeah.
certain?
So I went back. I erased it and went back to a vanilla Yosemite 10.10.3 and only using Safari a little bit. Sometimes you boot it up from scratch, and system preferences pinwheel. Okay, do something
kind of craptacular.
Click this pinwheel. I've had more pinwheels, so there aren't any fans in that.
Right.
And I did see the first time, I forget what I was doing. I had 2 apps running. Oh, if you want to compare. I had 2 apps running and pinwheel. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I launched console. I'm looking through the logs, and there were a bunch of times, I could look it up now, the exact message, but the console said something like, throttling down for thermal, CPU exceeds thermal threshold or something.
Was Spotlight running?
Wow, I don't even remember, but still, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's out of the box.
It's right. It's a fresh, install. And the other problem for me is that
I never understood why they couldn't just have everything already bound with a blank image from Spotlight.
I can get it. But that said, it's the thinness, and it's so light, and
you cut a cake.
If you're traveling, it's great. But yeah, right now I feel like the 11 and 13-inch Airs are superior machines to this. I haven't found that the battery life is that great with this machine that oh yeah, it blows away. I get 5 more hours than my 13-inch. Then you might say, all right.
I wonder if any of it. I mean, this is Apple's first use of this class of processor.
But
I wonder if they'll optimize their code over time to take better advantage of.
The disappointing thing to me was they went through this with the first MacBook Air. The first MacBook Air was a disaster, much worse than this.
Yeah.
Even with the SSD, right? The first MacBook Air, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then you took it out, and it was absolutely unusable. This isn't unusable, but when you're used to other contemporary,
especially the 15-inch.
Yeah, but even with a 13 or an 11, I use an 11-inch Air all the time, and that's a great machine. And it stutters. That's my problem. You get these pinwheels where I'm not used to getting them.
The next generation of integrated graphics will probably be able to handle the Retina screen in there better, which is probably where most of the
it's a beautiful
slowdown is.
It's definitely again, it's one of these beautiful things, but I'm disappointed with it. And the other problem for me is you've probably heard me talk about these file vault benchmarks that I've done over time. And on modern machines, I had tested on the MacBook Pro and the 15-inch, your disk I/O gets faster when the machine's file vaulted, which kind of blows everyone's mind. Everyone's like, no, it's encrypted, it's got to be slower. Apple's just doing this incredible amount of buffering and caching, and So like,
So no matter the size of the read-write operations, or
I've done these big long file copies, like a 250 gig encrypted disk image. Do a copy of that. That speeds up. Now, when I say gets faster, it's like sometimes by millisecond. It's but the thing is, you're not seeing a slowdown, right? And I've also done like compile Chrome, which is like the worst stress test a machine can have, like small bursty I/O, and that got faster too by like a second. But still, it was faster. And then same thing with like Blackmagic, Black. Is it Blackmagic? Well, what's the Blackmagic disk speed test?
Yeah.
That's just a simple GUI and say run, and it writes and reads.
Right.
Those have all gotten faster on the 15-inch and the Mac Pro. And someone on a mailing list that I'm on a while ago said, "Oh, File Vault made my performance so much worse." I'm like, that's the opposite of what I've seen. Like, what machine is this? And it was like a 2010 or 2009 with still a spinning platter disk. I was like,
I assume spinning platter immediately.
Yeah, I was like, I could see that. And also Apple, or IBM, I should say, Intel, not IBM. Intel at some point added AES instructions in hardware.
Right.
So now it has hardware acceleration to encrypt and decrypt. So I don't know where
Ivy Bridge or something.
Yeah, that.
That was the i7.
I don't know where that got
i7
added, but that helps out a lot as well. Okay, fine. The first time I saw that test not be true, my File Vault benchmark test, was on the iMac, the Retina iMac 5K. Thank you.
With which does that only come with an SSD, or can you get that with a standard hard drive?
The one I had only had an SSD.
Okay.
It wasn't even a Fusion drive. It was SSD.
Straight SSD.
And it didn't get much worse, but in some cases it was a little slower when it was file vaulted. This thing falls off a cliff when it's file vaulted, specifically in write operations. Reads are still about on par.
Is there native AES encryption in that core mobility or whatever the heck they call that?
That's a good question.
Atom. What is the name for the mobility
it's Core M.
Core M. Right.
That's a good question. I presume it did. We can look that up. But the other thing is, there's a new disk controller in these machines, NVMe. And I'm also presuming that the OS isn't quite optimized for the NVMe controllers yet. That's pure speculation. And this is the 1.2 gigahertz model. There's a 1.3 gigahertz
They do support AES and I encryption.
They do, okay. Yeah. And I thought, 100 megahertz, like, can it make that much of a difference? But someone here who's much more into hardware than I am said the 1.3, yes, the baseline is only 100 megahertz frequency boost, but the 1.3 turbo boost much higher than this one. So
there's a big performance difference in the benchmarks between those two processors for this model too.
But the 1.2, really, I've been a little disappointed with it.
I've even read
which was a surprise to me because I really thought, but like that force touch thing, man, like that's not moving.
It's
How
amazing.
is that possible? Like that's not actually moving. But,
yeah, it is amazing.
My brain thinks that's clicking.
That keyboard feels way better to me than I expected from some of the reviews too. I could totally touch type on that and not lose sleep over it.
I could see why people hate it. It does take a
Emacs key bindings. The escape key is totally weird.
Yeah,
that's
binding
is a little weird.
the arrow keys.
You have to get used to it. Oh, the arrow keys are different. The arrow keys.
There's no alley for me to put my fingers into. There's
and
no
you know
curve.
what I noticed? There's no curve here either.
Yeah.
And that's something I kind of use that as a non.
I don't realize until it's gone.
Yeah, you're right. But that's another thing. So,
I'm going to get used to it because I want one.
It's thinner. Does that make everyone at the table feel better that they were able to make it?
You know what? Here's the thing. Just like any tech, it might not be for me. It might be for other people. But I would sort of encourage people, if they're interested in it, to go to the Apple Store and
test them.
Just type on it for a little bit. And
I would definitely encourage, if you do get a chance to give that to somebody else and order another one, get the bumped processor, because I've read it makes a very big difference.
Yeah, well, so we've been waiting for it. Those have been delayed. We actually got one of the 1.3s in today. I didn't have a chance to play with it, but we're expecting a bunch more. And yeah, I'll try the 1.3 and see if it makes any difference. But right now, I can't like in my heart recommend this to people.
It's the only computer
At
that
Google,
comes in gold. It's the only acceptable color.
We got the 1.3 we got today is in gold.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
But yeah, recommendation-wise.
Recommendation-wise, I can't recommend it to people. A, because we require everyone to be file vaulted, and B, unlike my latest test where this is a plain vanilla image, and I get to use Safari, people here are going to have to use Chrome.
And so battery life, that was okay.
Yeah, I don't even know about battery life. Like, yeah, I've seen those
Some folks are
benchmarks,
saying.
but just I think it's a bit more of a bit more memory
Resource.
intensive. Yeah. So Safari has gotten really good about shutting down tabs and things when they're idle.
Yeah.
I'll admit, like Gmail, a lot of JavaScript gets loaded up under Gmail, and so you look at memory usage per tab, and your Gmail tab is always much higher.
Essentially, it's trying to be its own app, not just.
Yeah. So it's tough for me to say like give this a strong recommendation for internal use at a corporation, especially like with the file vault performance. I didn't see those benchmarks, so I'll take a look at the 1.3 and see if I can put it through its paces.
For certain things, especially for certain functions, it's going to be a 2-3% difference. So for others, it was like 30-50%.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, I hope the second gen, that one is one of the ones where this is a totally new class of thing. It's a whole new OS.
Yeah.
I wanted to be early adopter for something like this. Plus, I was holding up. I almost bought a Fitbit or a Fuel Band or something like that for the activity stuff 2 years ago, and I knew Apple was coming out with a watch, so I said, I know I'm going to rather have that. I bought an MP3 player like a month before the first iPod came out, so that's exactly how long I used that MP3 player.
Right. Someone here has I was thinking about getting the Surge and the Fitbit Surge, and someone here got one. I didn't realize it's actually, like, it sort of ramps up at the back of it. It's actually quite thick.
Pretty chunky.
It's much thicker than I anticipated from
Microsoft's.
photos.
I tried one of those on a whim. I was walking past the
I've heard those
Microsoft
were
store.
quite good, no?
And it comes out. It's like it's not a circle around your wrist. It's a rectangle around your oval-shaped wrist. It's really weird.
Like
it can't taper all that much since they're shoving so much stuff into it. It's like with the battery and
what do you
everything.
call it? A home arrest bracelet or something?
Yeah, like a house arrest.
House arrest. Yeah.
Proximity. Yeah, we have a guy whose job is he's got the double robot, he's got the 3D printer, he had a 210-hour print job for a skull in the corner, and he uses the Garmin because he knows that is just about the tops of the ones that are out there.
You know what? I still think if you're a dedicated runner, at least, I still think the Garmin is probably where you're going to go versus an Apple Watch.
Maybe. Although they did a direct comparison of the Garmin to the Apple Watch without an iPhone in range.
Yeah.
And they went on a run. Like, once somebody calibrated it with an iPhone on them the first time,
well,
and it was within like less than 1% in terms of one matching the other for accuracy of distance and speed and all that.
I don't know. I still want something I can beat up and like come home, run, just beat the hell out of this thing, and then come home, shower, and then put on my
the Casio G-Shock.
I just want I don't want to go out for a run with that thing. It's too nice.
Well, I have the other band though. I swapped that band in if I was going to do something like that.
Nice.
Yeah,
it seems too nice.
I don't know. These things are hard to beat up too. I mean, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I dropped mine. I was like trying to put all my stuff in the bathroom on top of this dresser thing. I was staying at my in-laws' house, and I was just trying to fit like my little dock kit and my cell phone and this up there, and there was just not enough room for it all, and this took a tumble onto the tile floor. I must have stared at this thing for, I don't know, for like 3 solid minutes, inspecting it, polishing it. I could not find a mark on it anywhere.
Well, that's a good report. Battery life, before we wrap up with the Apple Watch.
I've never ended a day with less than 35%, usually 50-ish.
Well, that's good to hear.
Usually 50.
I'm actually at the point where like I put it on the charger and then I wake up in the night and I take it off the charger so it's not warm when I put it on. And it's like at 99% in the morning.
In the winter, that'll be nice to have that little wrist warmer to start your day.
And then just to your point, with the accuracy, yeah, recently Brad Larson did a test. He wrote an app that can pull the data from Apple Health.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a runner, and he normally wears a chest strap for heart rate.
Yeah.
Which those are always considered the top of the line, the benchmark.
Yeah.
And he, he ran with both of them and laid the graph on top, and they were nearly identical.
Yeah.
So the Apple one is clearly pretty accurate.
Yeah, when you've got the workout app open, it's remarkably good at what it's doing, and it has all these little things you can page through that show things like calories consumed, distance run, your current pace, which is huge if you're doing something like training for a marathon or a half marathon or something like that.
Absolutely.
I'm just like, give me my heart rate, and I'm like, I walked up 2 hills and it was 140 beats per minute. What the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah.
The guy that does that research about all of these different types of initiatives, this was what they were giving students in the Bronx over Bluetooth.
Is that a pedometer,
it
basically?
Sucks out so that the students themselves don't need to sync anything, and they don't need computers. They just have an identifier that anonymizes when it goes up.
Why do
You
you
slurp it up. Because he gave it to me to see what the experience was like, because we're talking to each other, we're getting feedback about it. He was saying that, where was I going with that? He was saying that we're either going to get a lot of data, do a lot of research, save a lot of lives, or alternate hypochondriacs, one or the other.
Yeah, interesting.
All right. Into it or
so wrapping up, where do suggestions for our newcomer on where you go to get more information on Mac stuff? What are your sources?
Well, what do you
besides this meeting every month?
Yeah.
That's why I came.
No, that's good. That's good. But how do we help you? Like, where do you?
Depends on what kind of Mac stuff you want to learn, I guess. There's a lot of great blogs to follow. Alistair's AFP 548 if you want to dive into the super tech nitty gritty.
AFP548.com.
There's the MacAdmin Monthly meeting coming. I'm sorry, not just this meeting, but the PSU MacAdmins. If you want to get really into the tech, with a bunch 400 people who are talking about stuff like
that's an annual conference held at Penn State,
and the registration is open for that now out at Penn State University in Pennsylvania.
It's in the first
$500 for early bird registration, which is very cheap for a 3-day conference.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's 600 now.
600. It's still
early bird.
Relatively inexpensive for a conference, especially if you're already close by.
On the
travel
East Coast,
isn't a big burden.
It's 3+ days as well. I mean, most things are $2,000.
Breakfast and lunch, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they have events at night, so those are usually covered as well.
Yeah, basically, it's going to cover dinner.
And the hotel, which is super cheap.
Oh my gosh,
$99 a night.
Ridiculous.
For folks that are used to
trying to stay in Manhattan,
New York,
or California or something. Anyone going out for WWCB? Anyone going out to California? No.
But the Mac Enterprise mailing list is also a great way if you have.
Enterprise.
Yes.
Really?
What about some official sources? Because forums, it's great, but I'm just used it, as I told you, last 5 years I had an experience with Debian, and man pages is just awesome.
Yeah,
if you get man pages in the terminal on this,
if you're used to that sort of poking around, that's great. There's also developer.apple.com, and they have a lot of documentation. I mean, obviously they have the Cocoa API, but if you go on developer.apple.com into the docs section and you search for something, they'll have documentation on
here too.
kernel initialization and how, all sorts of things you might be interested in that aren't necessarily sitting down writing.
Yeah, because as for me, I'm interested in information for a system administrator. So it's how to use encryption, I just totally do not understand for file system.
Oh, Rich Troughton's blog.
Rich
Troughton's blog.
Der
Flounder.
So
Someone should write that one down. No one's going to remember that.
Yeah. If you're looking for official like Word of God from Apple, then look at getting certified. in ACMT, all the.
Yeah, sysadmin stuff.
I feel like
that's mostly help desk kind of stuff.
I feel like
He's starting though, so it might as well.
Yeah,
I would say.
Well, you know what
Apple
you could do?
Certified
Just
Support
go.
Professional into Technical Coordinator is a good program.
Here's the thing. Go. You don't even have to go get certified, but go look at the certification books.
Right.
Yes.
Go onto Amazon. Look up Eric Dreyer, AREK, DR. Why can't I remember this? EYER,
Dreyer.
and go buy all of his current books. Like that's right. I was thinking.
Or you go to Cryptid and
He has a brand new book out. I think it's Managing iOS Devices, and it hit me like midday today. Like, oh, I should ask him to join us and talk about his book, but it was probably a little too late. Maybe next month I'll try to get him roped into plugging his book and telling people about it and why they should go buy it. But yeah, all his stuff is good, and that's as close to the word right from Apple that you're going to get, because he writes these books. He and another whole group of people. Who is it? Kevin
Ben
Greisler, who's also going to be at
Penn State,
which would be nice. I haven't seen him in a bit. But they write these books for PeachPit, and PeachPit is the sort of official, like Apple blesses them to write these books and handle the tests and all this sort of stuff. So that's probably the closest you can get. Otherwise,
or the exam prep actually straight from training.apple.com on things like Apple Certified Technical Coordinator 10.10.
Yeah.
Will actually give
those books are the study guides effectively for those exams. So
but like this PDF, you can pull up on the web for free and start with.
Yeah. But I feel
something.
like for a commercial product, especially for system administration, OS 10 is much more like Linux than it is Windows.
Yeah.
Whereas Windows, you go on Microsoft TechNet and you get tons of information. As a system administrator on OS 10, you're often left finding things out for yourself, or turning to the community and saying, "Hey, has anyone else solved this already?" Because Apple changes things quite often, and you're just left. There's no documentation about the change, and you're just sort of left. Why did this change? Why, what happened? And on a forum like OS 10 server on Freenode IRC, people are discussing this all day and figuring this out and seeing what changed. Often to the system administrator, is a bit of a mystery.
I'm sorry, can you give me one more? His
Eric.
AREK. DRYER. DREYER. There you go. In books.
There you go. Go buy all his current books.
You get a commission there?
I do not. I do not.
There you go. OS 10 Server Essentials would be a good place to start. And this deployment, managing Apple devices. You're going to get into like MDM or Profile Manager or whatever.
Some books like the one that Direct Nago and Ed actually came
and some other guy.
Yeah, some other guy named Ed.
Yeah.
And that was on. It's a big online library that some companies have. I forget the name of it, but I had
ITIL?
No,
it's Safari from O'Reilly.
I think it's something like that, and I had access to it when I was working at a university.
Right.
So if your company has
Books 24/7 is part of.
That's the one.
It's part of. I can't remember what one. My company uses it too.
But yes, if your company has right now I know you're still looking, but if the company you end up working at has access to some sort of online training like Lynda.com
yeah, that's another one. I guess.
Does Lynda have Mac sysadmin?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah. Who's the guy who does it?
Sean. The Core Quick guy. Yeah. It's a Sean.
I want to say Sean Collins does tons of Mac stuff for Lynda.com. And it's like OS 10 server, and it's definitely Mac administration focused.
Yeah, for OS 10 server, I love the way Cryptid every time
that's right.
they do a full rundown everything that's changed. And
How could I forget that? So yeah, Troughton's blog, Greg Nagel's blog, and Cryptid
with a K.
With a K, K-R-Y.
Here, all three of them are listed in the IRC chat here.
There you go.
So copy this, and that, and that's a good place to start along with those books.
You know, and honestly, if you have a Windows background, I think that's really valuable to businesses because businesses tend to have these big Windows infrastructures, and they have this small group of Macs that they're like, how do we integrate this with our current infrastructure? So that's
Apple even
really
briefly had a
useful.
cert for that was kind of
Yeah,
laughable.
Apple had a cert for that for a
I'm
little bit.
certified for that, and it is laughable.
Yeah,
You can do
I got
it, you can do
certified
it
for it,
online
too.
in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There are definitely companies that nowadays look for skills in all 3 platforms. So
Yeah.
if you have all 3, you should be all right.
Yeah.
Should be all right.
And if you already have a Linux background, doing the command line part of OS 10 is like 95% the same, depending on what area you're delving into. But the structure of the commands, most of the commands themselves, cross over. Until you get into like DNS services or
then
whatever.
there are a bunch of things that are surprising to a Linux person. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
Why is this like this? It's amazing how many people break XE, the resolve.conf because an OS 10 is symlink to somewhere else. I'm like, what the hell is this? Let me just edit this and make my own file. And that breaks everything. There are tons of little surprises, but anyway. Those are some good resources. Hopefully that puts you in the right direction. All right, anything else?
Come back to this. We talked about actual Mac stuff at a few of these.
Yeah. Anything else before we wrap up? Questions? We'll get to Imager next month, I guess. I do want to talk about that. I have a lot of questions, but I won't be using it.
One thing I can say is I'm surprised it kind of took a while. Like, that was the last big thing that, there was a Ploy Studio, but almost every other tool out there is open source and free, right?
Yeah.
This, the Ploy Studio has always been free, but not open sourced. And so I'm surprised it took so long for someone.
Well, it's like Choco. I was saying to him yesterday that he's kind of like the person still standing up without raising his hand when everybody else sat down when they were looking for volunteers, of just like, who's going to be the person that puts the flag in there and makes actual repos for certain tools. Outset, there's something new he just did called setup resistant, which makes the setup system not run. And even though that's ridiculously simple, even though that's just writing .apple setup done, and saying registration is going to be, has already ran. He and now Graham are the people that are being the responsible maintainers of actual repos instead of just a gosh darn gist or Dropbox link. And so Imager has come from the fact that I think Graham has a little bit of time on his hands now, and he's like, I can make this happen. He adopted the work that Brienne did with auto NBI, and adopted some of the back end with BSD Pi, and therefore, like, those pieces were in place. And then it was just, how do I make this integrate with HTTP? Done. So it's crazy how forked it was immediately, right out of the gates. People were like, it's 700 megs of NBI, and here we go. Like, this app, and the people who wanted it also already knew Pi Objective-C. And so it got forked so many times that it's able for him to be that maintainer, because he'll also be the one that's still holding the flag for it.
Interesting.
So like, this is a good time for that.
Good. You'll give a full report next month.
I have to, now I have to do that, and my presentation at Penn State with Ben Toms over in England.
Yeah.
We're going to do a open source and free, because I was including Deploy Studio, versus stuff like Jamf Steel Cage Deathmatch. He wanted me to plug MacMule.com, his blog. Jamf Nation is the tool, is the forum for the tool, which people who don't even use Jamf as their management system also ask questions and get answers there, or post answers until they're trolled within an inch of their lives.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Wrap up right now. See you next month.